Hello, we're back with another episode of the Rocky Horror Picture Show analysis. I want to do a little cleanup from the last video where Frank made his entrance and his exit. And there is a podcast called Rocky Horror Minute Podcast. You can find it. I think it's all been recorded, but it's still available to listen to. Anyway, I found out about it, and it's painful to listen to. I'm going to give you that much. But every once in a while, they have said something that I've sort of perked my ears. Tell you the truth, I use it to fall asleep. They take 60-second chunks of the movie and talk about everything they see in there. So the movie is an hour and a half, something like that. There's a lot of these podcasts. But they did mention something when Frank is dancing in I'm a Sweet Transvestite. They mentioned 2 Band-Aids on his left arm. It's right here on just before his elbow and just above that glove. There's 2 Band-Aids right here, which I would have never noticed in a million years. And you have to be fast with the remote to catch it. So these people have studied this movie like down to the nanosecond. But they said they were 2 bloody Band-Aids, which I thought, well, if he just cut Eddie's head open, because we're getting ready to go to the lab where it's already been done, then maybe that was some kind of a injury from that, the struggle. But I slowed it down and clicked my remote, and it just looks dirty. It looks like 2 dirty Band-Aids, which, Now, back when they made this movie, I'm sure Richard O'Brien and Jim Sharman and Lou Adler, whoever else was involved, they probably never envisioned VCRs and DVD players and even just live streaming where people could actually take that movie home and stop and analyze it. They just threw in a bunch of little Easter eggs and probably nobody would ever even catch it. But now people are analyzing, why is this? Why is that? And maybe there's no reason other than it was something weird to throw in there, and this is a very weird place. So I do want to talk about Tim Curry saying he's not a transvestite in our sense of the word. I read somebody made a comment, I think it was on Facebook, and I thought, that makes sense now. He's from the planet transsexual in the galaxy of Transylvania. Yes, transsexual in the galaxy of Transylvania, and they are called, we call them Transylvanians, but they are called transvestites. That's like we're from Arkansas, Arkansan, and so their meaning of transvestite would not be our meaning. So in that regard, now I agree with Tim. Frank is not a transvestite. That is their dress on that planet. And now what I've been calling Transylvanians, who are doing the time warp, they're not dressed like that. So the best thing that, first of all, I don't know if they ever expected anybody to really think about this too much, but it seems like this group of aliens has studied humans, and they're trying to imitate what they've seen. So we have the maid, the butler, the American Gothic. We have different paintings on the wall that would be famous, to us Earthlings. So maybe that's why the aliens doing the time warp are dressed maybe in a way that they think is normal for Earth. And if you really want to pay attention and watch it a few times, some of the little time warp dancers, their costumes change over time too. Apparently, from the time they leave the ballroom to get to the laboratory, Fran Fullenwider, that's an unfortunate name, she's that really large one, her hat changes. It's a different hat. And so, who knows? There is a little bit of a goof in the ballroom section in Frank's not in his performance. Tim Curry is perfection. But as he's going down the red carpet up to his throne, you see the, I'm going to keep saying Transylvanians, that's what comes out of my mouth, but the line of the dancers on either side. And on the right side, you see Magenta, Colombian, Riff Raff, and I forgot the exact order that they are in. But when he comes back, they're out of order. They're in a different order. So a little bit of a continuity problem there. These are things that I would have never noticed, but there are true fans that have watched every millisecond of this movie, to totally, totally see everything that's in it. Okay. There is, so when Riff Raff gets the rag to dry Janet's hair, somebody on this podcast said he pulled it from a pocket. So I went back and watched. Tim Curry commands your attention. So when he's on screen, that's all you can see is him. But if you can just put him aside for a minute and try to watch the other people who are in this scene, then you start to pick up on some things. And so he's up on the throne and he does the little leg crossing and all that. And when he gets up, he says, hit it, hit it. And then he pushes on his way towards the elevator. Watch Riff Raff in that particular section. And you will see him open his coat jacket and pull that rag off of his left shoulder. So it's been hiding under there. He's getting ready for this next scene. When Frank gets into the elevator and he's, saying, maybe the rain isn't really to blame. And it goes back and forth from him to Brad and Janet to him. Every time the camera cuts back to Frank, it's closer. So the first shot is almost his whole body standing in the elevator. Then the next one's a little closer, a little closer, a little closer, until finally it's right on his face, looking at the camera, but not the symptom. That would be cinematography to draw you. You're being drawn closer to him, whether you want to be or not. The audience is, and Brad and Janet, especially Janet. He's pulling them in. Oh, I love this stuff. Okay. Let's see here. When they take off their clothes, when Brad and Janet are stripped down from all of their worldly appearances, we have not noticed that Janet is wearing a necklace with her name on it. And we'll see it very clearly when they get into the laboratory. When they come off the elevator and she's standing there, it catches the light and it's got her name on it. So almost like she's got her name to remember who she is in the world, but she's going to forget that pretty soon. And I need to look ahead and see, does that necklace go away before the end of the movie? Because that Janet doesn't exist anymore. That'll be an interesting piece to keep an eye on. I haven't looked ahead to see about that. I just thought of it. Okay, when they are stripped of their clothing, and we already mentioned Brad has some assets. And I want to know, do you think this is real or not? There was a whole discussion of that I was glad to see I wasn't the only one that noticed it. There was a discussion on Facebook about, is he packing? Barry Bostwick said, no help, it's all him. Of course he would say that, right? So anyway, but when they take the clothing off, he loses at least one shoe. I watched it a few times, at least one, because when they try to pick their clothing up, he picks up a shoe and you see his bare sock, I think his left leg. He picks up a shoe. And when they go into the elevator to go to the laboratory, they get out of the laboratory and all of a sudden he's got both shoes on again. So either he used that few seconds in the elevator to get his shoe back on, or that is a continuity error. Who knows? Just a little detail. Okay. Apparently, in this big castle, the pit that they used for the lab and the swimming pool is down below. But in the movie, it looks like we're going up to the second floor. Um, so that's just kind of a little side note, interesting note. It's actually a floor below where they are, and there's a drain, and you see a drain when the elevator opens. And they use that. Apparently, that area is also where the swimming pool was set up. Okay, they get off the elevator, and I want to talk about that just for a minute, and then we'll wrap this up. In the 70s, our callbacks were so mild compared to what they are now. These young people on the podcast were talking about when Frank is in his throne chair and he says, I've been making a man with blonde hair and a tan, and he's good for relieving my, and he pauses, tension. I don't remember if we said anything during that pause back in the 70s in the South. Let me know if you did. But they were saying now their generation adds sexual, and he's good for relieving my sexual tension. They say anal. They say, oh, I don't know. They had a whole list of them, and I was like, this is a little more foul than what we were. Okay. One thing we did yell, second floor, ladies' lingerie, and when they get there, and then when they open it, and Janet steps out first, and then Brad would go, ladies first, assholes second. Now they yell sluts first, the C word. What? They're really bad on Janet nowadays. And then Frank says, magenta, Columbia, and the women step out from behind. And so in our callback, we would go, what's your favorite color? And Frank would go, magenta. What's your favorite smoke? Columbia. Did y'all do anything like that? Okay. Last thing I'm going to say about this is Brad steps up to Frank. He kind of confronts Frank. All we wanted to do was to use your phone. And, anyway, Brad thinks he's in control. He tries to assert his masculinity here. And Frank is holding his glass and he said, so dominant. And what charming underclothes you both have. Brad is embarrassed all of a sudden, and everybody's giggling. So where Brad tried to exert his masculinity and take control of this situation, he totally loses it with one sentence from Frank. Frank is in control, as far as we know. We'll find out. Riff Raff is really the one in control. Okay, all right. I think we're done. I think we're done with this video, and we've only gotten them from the ballroom to the laboratory. There's so much. So next time we're going to talk about some of the props used in the laboratory. I'll see y'all then.